Alright, so welcome to the video. This is going to be day 10, 1.23 literal equations. So if you recall, again, we talked about the beginning at the first start of the video about literal equations, and now it's going to be kind of the second part. So what we're going to be doing here, again, is solving just for a variable. Again, just keep in mind that when you're doing these problems, again, your goal is to get one of the variables by itself. So again, whenever you're solving for it, just keep that in mind. So again, we're going to start with some definitions. In other words, literal equations, and I will get you a firm definition here. Literal equations are basically equations, or a fancy way of saying equations that involve letters and variables. So in other words, again, we don't have any numbers here, so therefore, we're just solving for a variable. Again, you think of these kind of in your specific formulas whenever you do these kind of problems, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at them. All right, so for number one, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of jump right in. It says A is equal to P times R times T. Again, this is a usual formula that we've used actually in math a couple of times. This is actually for interest, I believe, if I recall correctly. So principal amount, the amount that you have, the rate, and then the time that it increases over those minutes or hours. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve for the p-value in this case and get that by itself. So first thing I notice, again, everything's being multiplied. So if I want to undo my multiplication process, what I have to do is I have to divide. So in this case, since everything is being multiplied, I'm just going to divide right away by the values of r and t. And again, keep in mind that if you write things together as well, they're also going to be, again, considered being multiplied. Anything I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So therefore, then I have the RT on both sides. Now, the nice thing is these will cancel out, and then what's going to be left on that right side is just the p-value equal to, and now the rest of it, in this case, A over RT. So what you have here is you have an equation that looks something like this. And again, our goal, get p by itself and give you that value. All right, so here's what I'm going to tell you. If you feel very comfortable with these, please feel free again to go ahead and just go ahead and go over them one by one. It's going to be completely up to you. Feel free to check back on this video. Again, just kind of look at your answers. Hopefully, again, they're good to go. Otherwise, again, if you are struggling with this concept and you're still like, I need some help, again, just kind of follow along step by step with me. All right, so the next one, we're going to solve for B2 here. So this is kind of the same one that we actually solved in our toolkit, if you recall, as well. So we'll make this one kind of a little bit quicker since it's being divided by 2. We're going to multiply by 2 there. Again, we're going to get that same thing as 2a is equal to b1 plus b2 multiplied by the height. And again, remember how it's written doesn't really matter. Again, it's just the operations that matter and how we can undo those things. So if you look here, again, everything's being multiplied by h. Remember, we said in the toolkit, do not distribute that h because otherwise you're making more work for yourself. So you're just going to divide by h on both sides to simplify. And you're going to be left with 2a over h is equal to b1 plus b2. All right, and then the last thing, again, since we're solving for b2, we solve for b1 obviously in the toolkit. We're going to go ahead and subtract b1 on both sides. So then there, what that leaves is 2a over h, and then minus b1 equal to b2. Now keep in mind again that b1 does not go with the fraction, so do not write it up in the numerator because you're already dividing 2a by h, and again, otherwise that's going to change the order of operations that we just undid. So keep that in mind. So first two, hopefully you did a-okay with those. Next one of my favorite formulas actually from Mr. Albert Einstein, E equals mc squared. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to solve for c here to again find that value. So what we're going to do here is we're going to again try to get it by itself. So in this case, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by the value of m. Now, a lot of students, what they'll try to do is they'll try to take the square root first. The reason why we don't want to do that is because otherwise then you're going to square root the value of m, and then we have to again have the square root of m over, and then we got to again divide by that, which again makes more work for ourselves. We just want to keep that process just once and then keep everything on the other side. So we divide by m, so we have e over m is equal to c squared. And now what you're going to notice is obviously we have that square value there. What we're going to do now is we're going to undo it by taking the square root of both sides. Now the nice thing is, again, instead of having now to divide by the square root, I'm square rooting the entire fraction here. So I'm going to have the square root of e over m is equal to the value for c. And again, if you want to write plus or minus out in front, that's fine. But in this case, again, this is our function here that looks like that. So the square root of e over m, and then it's equal to c there. All right, number 4, we're going to take a look, and it says y equals mx plus b. This is the slope-intercept form. So what we're looking for here is we're going to try to go ahead and get m by itself. So the first thing I got, I see the value of b. I'm going to go ahead and subtract that on both sides. So I'm going to have y minus b is equal to m times x. Some of you are going to be like, well, why don't we divide first? Well, in this case, if we divide by m first, what we're going to have to do then is we'll have that b over m. So again, we're creating more work for ourselves then. So keep everything as simple as possible. Basically, you kind of work from the outside in. Now you're going to divide by the value of x on both sides since they're being multiplied. And then what you're going to have then is the slope is going to equal the y value minus the y-intercept over the value of x. So that's another way that you can actually get slope, which is actually kind of cool if you think about it. So when you solve for these, obviously you can get those formulas there. All right, hopefully you're okay with those 4. The next one we're looking at mass equals force over, force equals mass over acceleration. We got the big M there. Obviously this isn't Newton's formula, but you get the idea. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get A by itself. So if you look here, A is actually in the denominator. This is where students kind of struggle the most, especially when you're solving these, because you got to get A out of the denominator before we can actually solve and get it by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply everything by MA. So what that's going to do, in essence, is it's going to cancel out everything on this side. But anything I do to one side, I do to the other. So I'm going to go ahead and do MA multiplied by the big value of M is equal to F. So what I did there was basically, again, a 2-step process where I just said, hey, I can cancel these out, but I also need to multiply the entire side over there. Now, since this is being multiplied by that big M, what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide by that big M over there. And then what's going to happen? So as you can see, what we end up doing is we divide by M, but we're also going to divide by that little m there as well. So in this case, because again, basically what we're doing is we're doing the same thing that we did up here when we were dividing everything. We're going to divide by that little m as well. So basically we have F and then over big M and little m. So now what that means is the A is going to equal the big F over big M and little m. So as you can see, again, we again use that same kind of understanding when we simplify. So, all right, the next one, same kind of thing. So we got the slope-intercept form there. So we got 3x plus 4y is equal to 24. So we're going to solve for y. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take that 3x and I'm going to move it up. I'm going to have 4y is equal to 24 minus 3x. Now what you're going to notice is, in this case, you got that value of 4y. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it by 4 on all terms. Simplify. Now, keep in mind, again, when you divide on the right side, you need to divide, obviously, 24 and negative 3 by 4. So what's going to happen is you're going to have y by itself, so therefore 4 is obviously cancel, equal to, and then 24 divided by 6, which gives you 6, or 24 divided by 4, which gives you 6. And then you can just leave this negative 3/4 x, since you can't simplify it. If you want, you can put it as a decimal, but I just recommend just leaving it as a fraction. So therefore, again, you end up getting that form. So what you end up noticing is, again, y by itself, and then you can simplify the terms there. All right, and we got 2 more down here. So number 7, it's asking us to solve for y again, so same kind of deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that negative 2, I'm going to move it on over. I'm going to have n plus 2 equal to 4y. And then since everything again is being multiplied by 4, I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. Now, how you solve this again is completely up to you. There's a couple of different ways you can write it. You can leave it as this. So I left it as n is equal to, or y is equal to n plus 2 over 4. Again, the less algebra you do, the less mistakes that can occur. So again, just keep that in mind. If you wanted to, you could also split it, right? N over 2 plus 2 over 4, and then just reduce it into n over 2 plus 1/2. That could be a way that you could do that as well. But in this case, again, I would just leave it like that, so that way it's a little bit easier for you. All right, and then the last one, we got the value for number 8. It says pi over 2 minus 4n is equal to 6. We got to solve for the value of n. So what I recommend here in this case is just starting off easy. In this case, you got that positive pi over 2. Remember, fractions are a friend here. What we're going to do is we're just going to take that pi over 2. We're going to move it on over. I'm going to get negative 4n is equal to 6 minus pi over 2. And then what you can do is you can divide by that value of negative 4 on both sides. And now here's where, again, we kind of run into some problems sometimes. So when we divide by negative, obviously it's going to change some of our form. So obviously the negative 4s are going to cancel here. But you're going to be left with n is equal to, now, what I always like to do again is obviously split these fractions because it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to do 6 divided by negative 4. Now what's going to happen is if I do 6 divided by negative 4, what that means is I'm going to end up getting a reduced form. So I'm going to go ahead and write a new n value over here, and I'm going to reduce that fraction. So it's going to make it negative 3 over 2, because again, both values are divisible by the factor of 2. So 6 divided by 2 gives me 3, negative 4 divided by 2 gives me 2, obviously, and again, we got to keep that negative there. And then the other one, it says we've got negative pi over 2 divided by negative 4. So what we're going to do here is obviously we have two negatives, so keep that in mind. So it's obviously going to make a positive value. Now, what you're going to notice is, obviously, if we divide by a fraction over another fraction, obviously we need to multiply by its reciprocal. So what that means is we're going to end up having to multiply. So I'm going to have that value for, and you can put plus, but I'm going to have pi over 2 with that value. And then what I ended up doing was, since again you needed to multiply now that value, what I did is I multiplied by 1/4. So in this case, what that does then is it allows me to multiply my terms. So 1 times pi gives me pi over, and now the value in this case, which is 8. So the reason why, again, is because if you remember, we originally divided by negative 4. So now if we multiply by that reciprocal, in this case, again, we kind of just reverse the process. In this case, we get the value of pi over 8. All right, so again, we need to make sure that, again, when we have two fractions, especially with one another, again, we can simplify their terms, that way we can get them. So this is solving literal equations, day 10. Hopefully, again, you figured it out A-okay. Again, not a long video. Hopefully, again, you'll be able to get your homework done with this. Again, it shouldn't be too long for you. But just keep in mind, again, our quiz will be the next time that I see you, either on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. Thank you again for being so flexible, obviously with the sub being there and stuff, but again, hopefully you got these notes, and I'll check your homework when you get back as well. So have a great rest of your day. Oh, also I forgot to add to, again, your chapter test. Hopefully you have a chance to look at the board. Your chapter test will either be on Tuesday or Friday or Monday when I see you. So some of you, again, will have a second review day because of the testing and stuff, pre-ACT that happened, and some of you, again, will just have one. But again, your test will be coming up either late this week or again early next week. So with that in mind, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all very soon. Bye.